Welcome to the November blog series. I'm Tad Radzinski, speaker, educator, and expert in corporate responsibility and sustainable product development. Thank you for joining this month's series, Benchmarking and Measurement, Evaluating Where You Are, Determining Where You're Going. Today's topic, we're going to talk about engaging and understanding your supply chain. This is definitely a critical issue for many different organizations. Whether you're a company that has a sustainable purchasing policy and you're just trying to understand the sustainability of your products and the companies that you buy from, or you're a large manufacturing company that has an extensive supply chain where you're trying to understand the impacts of the materials you use in your products or understand the chemical content of them and how you can make your products more sustainable, or you're just an individual who's committed to sustainability and likes to purchase products and services from sustainable organizations, utilizing the most sustainable or green products that you can. Understanding your supply chain is really important to really realize how they impact your operation, how they impact the overall sustainability of your company, and there's various ways you can evaluate these folks. And really looking at the supply chain, if you think about it from a life cycle perspective, if you're a manufacturer, for example, you're getting multiple supplies or multiple materials from different organizations. They're then transported to you, where you manufacture products, and then they get distributed out to warehouses, then transported to us as customers purchasing the products. So understanding the whole supply chain is very complex. There's actually majors in colleges and universities now where people can study supply chain management. And looking at the environmental and social aspects of these suppliers is very important to do. So keep in mind when you're evaluating your supply chain, it can be very complex or it could be very simple, depending on the number of people involved and the type of organization that you're operating in. So the easiest way to get information about suppliers is through questionnaires. And if you remember in the previous blog, we were talking about how different companies are sending out sustainability scorecards or questionnaires. In this example, we see Kaiser Permanente, and they actually have not only corporate level questions where they ask things about how a company uses energy, do they provide fair working conditions for employees, do they do audits, are they engaged or enrolled in ISO 14001 programs, different things like that. But they also get very specific about certain materials and chemicals and other things that are appearing within products. And actually Kaiser Permanente has a series of chemical or material bans that they do not want to see in products. So they basically use a scorecard or a questionnaire like this to get that information. We have also talked extensively about Walmart and how they're doing things with scorecards and questionnaires. If you remember, they really started a huge movement back in 2010 when they sent out the 15 questions to suppliers asking them about sustainability in their organization. So that was something that started a wave only 3 years ago. Now, we work with many companies to help them develop very specific questionnaires that they send out to their suppliers. And these questionnaires can be detailed, asking about sustainability information, or they can be very specific down to the product level. For example, what are the raw materials in your product? What are the chemicals? How do you comply with various things like ROS or REACH or the Dodd-Frank Act? We also often ask about chemical information because there's a huge movement now for doing health product declarations and other things like that. So when you are measuring environmental and social performance of suppliers, there's a number of things that you can ask for. You can ask questions about energy efficiency or greenhouse gases. You can basically ask about water use or how they transport products, packaging, material and chemical content. Like I mentioned, there's a very big movement in the green building world now to evaluate not only environmental impacts of products, but also understand the chemical content of the products and how these chemicals can have effects on human health and the environment. Another thing, if you have been paying attention to the news, there's a lot of activity where in other countries we're having major human rights violations or poor working conditions. For example, in Bangladesh, we just had the factory that collapsed and killed quite a few people. These are things that are starting to get attention, and these things can be built into your questionnaires for your suppliers. So something to keep in mind, most of these questionnaires need to be very specific to your organization, and these can be done in multiple ways. Also, think about it, if you're not a large company that's manufacturing something and you're just interested in who you're buying from, first place to start is go to the internet. You can start to do some research there, and then I often encourage whether it's a company we're working with or my students, if you're interested in knowing what a company's doing, email them. If they don't have specific information, you can start out with an email and just ask specific questions about them and let them know you're interested in the products they make, or you've been a long-time customer and you want to know what they're doing. And most likely, in many cases, you'll get a response from somebody. So how do we do this? The best thing to do, and for big manufacturers that are always buying products or raw materials, they're buying parts for, say, a piece of hardware or as big as a car, we really work on embedding sustainability into the contract process. And what that means is there's going to be specific requirements right in the contract that suppliers have to report on, say, recycled content or chemical content, or contractors or suppliers are required to report on, their greenhouse gases, for example, in the Carbon Disclosure Project. So different things like that can be embedded right into the contracts, and that's the most solid way to get that set up, where every year in the contract you're going to get that information. Makes your life really easy when you're trying to get that information from year to year. Another big one is collaborating with suppliers. Many of suppliers are just not educated on sustainability or don't understand what you want. Having good communication with them is really important. Being able to talk to them, being able to get them to provide this information in the questionnaires so you can utilize it. And then also opening up discussions about transparency within the supply chain. Many companies have a huge supply chain, and they've done some things where they've done some education, but really getting that supply chain to be understanding of why this information is important. We are in the age of transparency right now, and it's only the beginning, because with health product declarations, environmental product declarations, LCA data, transparency briefs, all these different things are coming to market. So having a good program to work with suppliers is really important. Again, whether you're a large company, an individual who's interested, or you're just an organization that maybe doesn't even make anything, but you provide services and you have a sustainable purchasing policy, all these things are really helpful to get that information and understand what's going on within your supply chain. So I want to thank everybody for joining today. We will be having a webinar on Tuesday, November 26th, where we're going to take a deeper dive into the topics we've covered in the month of November. We're going to focus on learning how to properly organize and use your benchmarking data. And then the great thing about when we do a live webinar is you all get to ask questions. And I would strongly encourage you to please continue to email me and post questions on my blog, because that's really helping me tailor these topics, and that's how we're developing this whole series. So thank you, and continue to follow along. If there's any questions, you can reach out to me via email, through my blog or my website. And I do look forward to seeing you on November 26th. So thank you.